Now, the architect Gillian Hall is with me in studio today to discuss how she was able to build this house from the ground up with a conscious and sustainable approach. Welcome, Gillian.
So nice to be with you, Pilani.
Now, the client brief would be of great interest to me when this home is kind of like so specifically designed. What was the client's brief?
Well, the client is a single mother and she's a geologist. So the context informed us in the design.
Yeah.
She wanted to see the sweeping views of the landscape. The brief was informed by a simple design that is tranquil and is based in the context.
Right. And a lot of your work is around, the structural elements that allow for all of these things to happen, like bringing the outside in, but also bringing some of those elements from the outside within the interior. How are the ways that you've done that?
Well, we used the soil in a rammed earth wall, which was informed by a collaboration with a local artist. She drew an artistic impression of the hills, and we actually put it into the rammed earth wall. So when you enter, you see the hills that are on the entrance that take you into the sweeping views of the valley.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, this is a wonderful stone. Now, there's also the idea that architecture has many styles, and our country and our continent is forever evolving. How would you describe the architecture of the home and its style?
It's contemporary South African. Yes, we love South African work.
And there's so much to look at.
We are really, really proudly South African, and we love doing collaboration work with other local artists and craftsmen, because then we reach a greater community, and that's very important to us at Felt.
Right, and that informed, some of the sand work and, the stone that you've been telling us about. But there's also other sustainable materials, I believe, that you've brought into this space to make it eco-friendly. Can you walk us through some of those elements?
I think the most important thing is when you design a building that you employ professionals to assist you in the whole design, and especially when you're looking at creating sustainable buildings. So we designed the home in terms of the orientation, we looked at the sun angles, we used the context material in the rammed earth wall, we also used cladding materials that helps us with insulation in the house. We also did some permeable materials, so then when you have rain, it disperses into the ground, and it's not this runoff. So it is more sustainable, and we use sustainable materials like plastic, recyclable plastic material.
Right.
Also, there were two other systems that we integrated. One was the rain harvesting system. So we've got this very delicately fine, detailed monopitch roof that collects a lot of the water that goes into a gutter and then down into some tanks that we irrigate, and the water gets recycled and reused. And we also used some solar energy. We in sunny South Africa, so why not harness, everyone knows these days. We harnessed solar energy through power. So, we've got solar panels, and then when we've got load shedding.
It sounds like a really well integrated, number of systems to kind of build this house from everything that is necessary, which is really interesting. And, thinking about all the elements from water to sun to, what are the elements? To soil, to earth, fire.
if you think about it, there is a trend towards more off-grid living. And I think with COVID and everything that's gone on, people want to, people have just become more conscious of the spaces that they live in and work in and the environment. So they really want, there's a consciousness towards our environment.
Talking specifically about power usage, what are the key things that we can do to kind of get off the grid and use power?
I think the first thing is harnessing our context with the sunny South Africa. So using solar power to enable us to have photovoltaic battery backup systems in place can assist a lot with load shedding and all of those things. And also, solar energy can go even further. You can have underfloor heating in your winter months, as well as your pool water can be heated with the excess of power generated by solar heating.
And quite often I love that you talk about the access. Quite often people don't realize that, you know, solar heating will give you more than you need, you know?
Absolutely.
We think that it'll give me just enough for a bath every day. I mean, talk us through all the little power or solar systems that exist.
We get solar geysers that are on your roof. Those are the normal panels. And then we also get heat pump systems. So heat pump systems work with electricity, but it reduces the electricity cost. So there's still an electricity cost, where with solar we harness the sun energy.
Okay,
Yes.
and also there's the idea that, you know, we often do get cold in South Africa, even though, you know, it's hot in the day in the winter, but it's also very cold at night, and we don't insulate here because we don't get snow.
Yes.
But there are ways to get your house insulated so that you don't have to use so much heating power.
Yes.
Talk us through insulation.
I think before we start with insulation, it's very important to think about orientation first. If the building's orientated, you have already won half the battle.
Right.
After that, you know, thinking about your walls being cavity walls, having insulated materials between them, you know, so you actually want to create this vacuum of a home. Opening the doors and having ventilation in summer is good, but in winter you want to be insulated inside as well. And you also don't want as much heat gain and heat loss, you know, during winter and summer months. So another important factor to consider is in the roof having good insulation, to have good R values, and also double glazing. Maybe double glazing is a very expensive thing, but maybe just have double glazing like in your main living areas.
Right.
Yes, so that you harness, you know, the energy that you create in the space in the winter, but in the summer we also don't actually want all the heat to, we want the heat to dissipate with ventilation.
Sure.
But we want it cool in the summer inside. So again, with the heat baking on the outside, then inside is cool because of the insulation.
Right.
But and the ventilation.
It's all incredible because you started earlier about how collaboration and working with others is just so important to what you do and what we do in South Africa. And my thought right now is how much information you're giving me, and quite often we want to build our homes and go directly to the contractor without consulting, you know, sustainable architects like yourself, and, you know, going through these structural choices that may actually save us money in the long term, you know, as expensive as it may be.
I think the cost initially is very high with doing green technology, but the benefits outweigh. If you think how long you live in your home,
Right.
how much time you spend in your home, and now with COVID, how much you work from home.
Right.
Get the right professionals on board to give you the right advice to design, you know, appropriate buildings for our context that celebrates us as South Africans.
I mean, context is everything, is what I've just learned, you know, from everything that you've given us today. And the context of, firstly, we're in this beautiful, you know, nature-filled country, South Africa, that has all the elements that work in our regard. And as we build, you know, our modern-day shelter, we should really consider our environment even more.
Yes,
So it's been an incredible conversation with you. Thank you so much, Gillian.
it's been a pleasure, Paloma.